Y&R Spoilers reveal that Tessa sat alone in the park, the dim light of the fading afternoon reflecting the mixed emotions in her heart. She felt like she was lost in her own life, caught in a spiral that she couldn't escape. The old wounds were still not healed, and now, when her feelings for Daniel were at a major crossroads, everything seemed to become more complicated than ever. At that moment, Daniel happened to walk through the park. He seemed to sense the instability in Tessa's mood at first sight. He couldn't ignore the obvious weakness on her face. Tessa had always been a strong person, never showing sadness, but this time, he realized that she couldn't continue to hide the pain in her heart. As Daniel approached, Tessa looked up, unable to contain her emotions anymore. She burst into tears, tears falling unconsciously, like a broken dam. The guilt and pain that Mariah was no longer the person she loved, that all hope seemed to have been shattered, weighed heavily on her heart. Daniel didn't say anything, he just moved closer and held her in his arms. The warmth from his arms seemed to ease some of the pain in Tessa's heart, but she still couldn't stop crying. "I can't take it anymore, Daniel. Mariah, she's not the person I loved. Everything changed so fast, and I can't keep this relationship," Tessa said through sobs. Daniel squeezed her hand, feeling the waves of sadness rising inside her. "Tessa, you're not alone. I'll be here, with you. Everything will be okay, you'll see." He couldn't say empty words of encouragement, but he could feel the pain she was going through. What happened between her and Mariah was too complicated to comprehend, but one thing Daniel knew for sure was that Tessa needed a strong shoulder to lean on to get through it all. Things weren't just complicated in Daniel and Tessa's family. For Faith, Daniel's daughter, Tessa's presence in his life seemed unacceptable. The pain of losing her mother made it even harder for Faith to accept that her father had another woman. She couldn't forget her mother, and her attachment to the beautiful memories made Faith frustrated at how quickly her father had changed. One evening, when Faith returned home from school, she found Daniel and Tessa sitting together in the living room, their eyes locked with an undeniable bond. But for Faith, this only made her feel a wave of anger rising inside her. "Dad, how could you do this?" Faith said, her voice choked. "I haven't gotten over her, and now you're bringing Tessa into our lives like she never existed." Daniel could hear the pain in his daughter's voice, but he also knew that this was part of the process Faith was facing. "Faith, I understand how you feel, but you have to understand that your mother will always be a part of my heart. Tessa can't replace your mother, and that will never change." Faith didn't respond, just turned away, her red eyes looking at the floor. She couldn't bear the feeling of betrayal. Although she loved her father very much, the image of her mother was still too strong in her heart. After a long time of no contact, Tessa decided to find Mariah, the person she had always considered the love of her life. However, Mariah's distance became more and more obvious. She was no longer the person Tessa loved, no longer warm and passionate like before. This made Tessa feel more desperate than ever, but she still couldn't give up. She needed to find out the reason why Mariah had changed. Tessa picked up the phone and called Mariah, a feeling of unease rising in her heart as the rings rang. Finally, Mariah answered, but her voice sounded cold and distant. "Tessa, why did you call me?" Mariah asked, her voice tired and a little evasive. "Mariah, you can't stay silent like this. You've changed so much, you can't leave me like this," Tessa said, trying to stay calm even though her heart was breaking. Mariah was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Tessa, you don't understand. Ian came back, and everything in my head is in chaos. I feel guilty for what happened to him, and now I don't know what to do with it," Mariah admitted, her voice filled with sadness and guilt. Tessa felt her heart clench when she heard that. She couldn't believe Ian had such a strong influence on Mariah. "Mariah, you don't have to blame yourself. Ian may be a part of your past, but you're not the one responsible for everything," Tessa said, trying to comfort the girl she once loved. Mariah was silent for a long time before speaking again. "Tessa, I'm sorry. I can't go on like this." Mariah then hung up without giving Tessa a chance to say anything more. Tessa stood there, feeling like her world had collapsed around her. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Daniel. They had been through a lot, but their love had always been the only thing that made everything worthwhile. But now, that love was facing an unpredictable test. Tessa and Daniel's love story had never been easy. After all the hurt and pain Mariah had left in both of their hearts, continuing to be together was a battle with themselves. Both Tessa and Daniel knew that not only their love but also the relationships around them would face inevitable changes. The story became even more complicated when Faith, Daniel's daughter, could not accept her father's new love. She had not yet overcome the pain of losing her mother, and now, she had to face the reality that her father was starting a new relationship with Tessa. Will Faith be able to accept this? Or will she find a way to stop her father from moving on to a new life, one without his mother? Tessa can see the pain and worry in Faith's eyes, and she knows that she will have to fight not only to keep her love for Daniel, but also to win Faith's acceptance. Meanwhile, Tessa begins to feel old wounds being reopened. Mariah, whom she has always loved and trusted, is now distant. Memories of their time together are now raw wounds. Tessa cannot understand why Mariah has changed, and it hurts her deeply. She feels guilty for pushing Mariah to give Ian a chance, even though she knows it won't be easy for someone like Mariah, who has been hurt by Ian in the past. Tessa decides that if things can't be fixed, she will find a way to move on. She suggests going to therapy to work through the issues that remain in her soul. Tessa begs Mariah to give her a chance to mend their relationship, to face the past together and rebuild what was lost. But Mariah disagrees. She insists that Tessa is not the one who needs to be forgiven, but Mariah is the one who needs to face her mistakes. Tessa can sense the pain in Mariah's voice, but she doesn't know that Mariah has a secret that she is not ready to share. Tessa persists, believing that they can work through it all, but Mariah simply says sorry and walks away. Tessa stands there, feeling abandoned, not only by Mariah but also by the past that she cannot escape. But then, one day, when everything seems to be fading into oblivion, Tessa receives a call from Mariah. She knew something had changed. Mariah was no longer holding back, and she was ready to face what had happened. Tessa heard Mariah's voice, weak, but determined. "Tessa," Mariah began, "I have to tell you something." Mariah admitted that her behavior had changed since Ian Ward returned to town. She talked about the guilt she had always carried around Ian, the man she once loved but who had always caused her deep wounds. Mariah had finally realized that she had let her past and guilt control her life, and now she needed to face all of this. While Mariah felt that she should have recognized Ian for what he was from the beginning, Tessa disagreed. She didn't want Mariah to blame herself for her past decisions. Tessa understands that we all make mistakes, and that mistakes do not define us. It is important to learn to forgive ourselves and move forward. Tessa looks in the mirror and sees her own reflection. She knows that the hurt she has endured will not go away easily, but she also understands that love is not something that comes when everything is smooth sailing. She will continue to fight to keep this love, not only for herself, but for Faith, for Daniel, and for Mariah. Tessa knows that the future is uncertain, but she cannot give up. With every tear that falls, she also understands that sometimes, love faces great challenges, and only when it overcomes those challenges can love truly grow and last. Tessa sat alone in silence, feeling the pain tearing at her heart. Her relationship with Mariah seemed beyond repair, and Mariah's apologies couldn't heal the wounds in Tessa's heart. She felt more lost than ever, but at the same time, she realized that she couldn't live in the past. Tessa needed to move on, but could she leave behind all the beautiful memories and feelings? And could her new love with Daniel help her heal her heart, or was it just another turning point in her tumultuous life? As the evening sun fell, Tessa looked out the window, an indescribable feeling filling her heart. Life went on, no matter how painful love was. Phyllis Summers, always an unpredictable character, now faces a major challenge when her career at Abbott Communications is in danger of being completely eliminated. When given the opportunity to lead, Phyllis has always been strong and decisive, but when Billy Abbott, one of her former partners, replaces her with Sally Spectra, Phyllis feels slighted. Not only is she disappointed with the decision, but she also feels that Sally is not experienced and capable enough to take on such an important role. Although she cannot deny her anger, Phyllis is not one to give up easily. Instead of letting this failure defeat her, she decides to create a new empire, a new challenging business opportunity that no one can easily defeat. Phyllis turns to her son, Daniel, with a bold idea. She wanted him to join her on a new project, an ambitious plan that she believed could make a big difference in the industry. When she met Daniel, Phyllis not only talked about her failure but also shared with him her decision to cut ties with Abbott Communications, a move she felt was necessary to maintain her dignity and rebuild her career. Daniel, with his wisdom and drive, realized that Phyllis would not let this struggle go. Although he sensed the tension in the conversation, he listened and sought to support his mother. Phyllis spoke of the bright future she hoped to create with Daniel, as if it were an exciting new project for them to explore together. Daniel could not help but feel the determination in his mother's eyes. He knew that Phyllis was not one to give up easily, and with her persuasiveness and foresight, she would not stop looking for opportunities until she achieved her goals. However, even so, Daniel could not help but worry about the consequences of his mother's bold decisions. He advised Phyllis to find a direction that could truly inspire her, something that not only excited Phyllis but could also make him feel interested and willing to commit to this project. Phyllis, with her sharp eyes and sharp vision, did not ignore Daniel's advice. She began to think about a new strategy. She came up with bold ideas about building a business empire that she believed would be successful. Her predictions about her ability to overcome difficult challenges made her even more confident that Daniel would accompany her. Phyllis not only saw the excitement in her eyes, but also saw that her son was starting to take an interest in the plans she had outlined. However, while Phyllis was preparing for her new campaign, an unexpected event occurred. Daniel happened to see Tessa sitting alone in the park, her sad appearance making him unable to ignore it. He noticed something was wrong and approached her. Tessa, who had always been strong and resilient, now appeared weak. She could not hide the emotions that were building up inside her. There had been difficult moments in her relationship with Mariah, and she seemed unable to escape from that loneliness. Daniel, unable to let the girl he considered his sister suffer alone, pulled her into his arms. Tessa sobbed in his arms, feeling as if all the pain that had been pent up for so long had burst out. She felt as if she had been abandoned by the person she loved the most, the person she believed would always be by her side. Mariah had cut her out of her life, and Tessa didn't know what to do to heal her broken heart. Daniel, though not always the most skillful in handling other people's emotions, was still someone Tessa could trust. He knew that Tessa needed someone to share with, and that nothing was more important than her feeling comforted in this moment. He didn't say much, simply holding her tight and letting her cry in his arms. Phyllis, while busy with her own plans, didn't know that the feelings between her son and Tessa were gradually becoming an indispensable part of his life. Daniel, with all his worries and career, now had to deal with complicated emotions and difficult decisions. The relationship between Phyllis and Daniel was not only about careers and opportunities, but also about challenges and sacrifices. Phyllis wants her son to be successful and happy, but can she find the balance between ambition and family? Can Daniel help his mother build a new empire without hurting those around him, especially Tessa, whom he cares deeply about? These questions remain unanswered, and as life continues to unfold, challenges and difficult decisions await.